So glad you're here, and today we're talking about insights on longevity and health drawn from my extensive experience on research, writing 6 books on veganism. My journey toward veganism and its impact on health and longevity have been so huge, and people are always asking me, how do you do all the things you do and look the way you do, and tell us more. So I want to share with you how longevity has so incredibly been affected by veganism. And, people who come to hear me talk or see me do a cooking demonstration say things like, it would take me a lifetime to learn what you've learned. And indeed, it has taken me a lifetime because I almost died of a colon blockage when I was 28. It was the same year that my sister had breast cancer for the second time. And I'm going like, oh my gosh, I gotta figure this out. I was a TV investigative reporter. So figuring out the truth about diet and exercise became the investigative reporting job of my life. And my first idea was to write this one because as a financial consultant at Smith Barney, the old school, old fashioned way, that was their motto in case you don't remember that. And so I always thought that in my work with socially responsible companies, they figured out that if you could show people like Anheuser-Busch, they recycled their own company's cans, and that was good. But if they recycled other companies' cans, then they could say they were socially responsible and their stock price would go up. It was that simple. So I figured if we could show people how ridiculously cheap it is to eat vegan, then as many people have said, I don't know about vegan, but you had me at $4 a day. So I was going through the wallet, through the pocketbook, and it really worked. The book took off, and my publisher said, let's keep writing. When I first started this journey, I was not living with or married to men who were vegan. And, I kept trying to be the example and show by my running, which I started at the age of 28. I was never very fast back then, kind of a middle of the packer. But I just figured if I could keep doing this for a long time, I knew that I would enjoy a better quality of life than my mom, aunt, and both sisters did. They all had breast cancer, and everybody in my family of origin, all the adults had some disease, and sometimes multiple diseases because they go hand in hand. Diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, dementia, and even Alzheimer's. But what I would learn along this journey is that I had so much energy, I had to do something with it. So I really poured my heart into running, and I participated in a snowball series when I lived in St. Louis. My kids gave me the 40th anniversary sweatshirt of the very first year I did that race. Again, never placed in any of those age groups or any of the races. I just did it to kind of have forced training, and it was fun to be with a group of people who enjoyed getting out there. But here's the other thing I learned. The recovery, eating, eventually I would morph from vegetarian to vegan. The recovery was incredible. I wasn't as sore as my meat-eating marathon running colleagues. They were just waking up the next day going like, oh, I can't walk. Oh my goodness. And so it was kind of interesting to see how this played out in terms of my health. And once I also got rid of dairy in my diet, the constant bronchitis and they believe even asthma that I had as a young kid, all of that disappeared. I used to get sick like clockwork when I lived up north, when the seasons would change, because I had all this sinus drainage coming from what I now know to be consumption of dairy. And once I got rid of that, it was like turning the faucet off in the back of my throat. And you can hear now, my voice is fairly clear and resonant. And that's how I was able in broadcasting, especially to get up at 3 a.m. to drive to work to be on the air by 5, that I was able to have a clear, resonant voice once I got rid of that constant sinus dripping and sniffing and coughing. It seemed to me miraculous. So what happens when you do maintain health is you don't get sick as often, or when you do get sick, it seems to last a whole lot less. And there's even research now about COVID on that. Vegans typically don't get it as often, or when we do, and I had it twice. I was out there in the public eye a lot in my COVID days, and I only had it for a couple of days each time, and it just seemed very, very mild. So what are some staple vegan foods that are known for promoting health and longevity? Well, of course, as I write in all of my books, beans and rice, beans and whole grains. It's really all about getting enough protein, and you will, trust me, you will not die of a protein deficiency. There's lots of sources of protein in a whole foods vegan diet. Now, we're not talking about junk food vegan stuff because there's plenty of that too, but just getting back to the basics. And if you ever feel like you're straying, just remember you can get a can of beans. You can even get all kinds of packaged pre-made rice if you want to, though typically they package them with a little bit of oil. So if you want to go a little bit less on the oil to keep your heart protected, certainly go that direction. Now, you have to check in with your doctor. I am not one, but there are lots of whole food, plant-based, vegan cardiologists out there who will guide you along that path if that's where you need to be. And just some tips on how to incorporate these foods into your daily diet. Always have a big box of something that's green. And I say box because that's unfortunately, I guess, how most of us are getting our vegetables these days, in shrunk wrapped, plastic coated, covered containers. Although if you do just walk into like a Whole Foods or a produce stand or some kind of grocery store that has all the produce laid out as you walk in, let your mind's eye just wander the different colors. You know, nature invented all these different fruits and vegetables, the entire color of the rainbow, so that your mind's eye would be attracted to them. And as you walk in, just let your imagination run wild. You know, the very least, don't overthink this, but you could do a stir fry with whatever floats your boat. So maybe it's going to be broccoli, carrots, squash, onions, things like that that you can easily prepare and throw into a stir fry. So stir fry, the base can be anything. Brown rice has always been my staple, but you can certainly have other whole grains like millet or you know, even if you wanted to get away from certain gluten products, depending on your interest there, you could go with things like cauliflower, just throw it in a blender and you've got little pellets of cauliflower. They even sell this in the frozen section for a lot of money, just ground up cauliflower. But why wouldn't you just buy a head of cauliflower at the grocery store and then put it in a food processor when you get home, and then it looks like cauliflower rice? That's even what it is on the menu now. Who would have thunk? So easy things that you can do. And worst case, you can always make a smoothie. Whatever you got in the fridge, it can end up in a smoothie. I did that last night. We had some berries that were about ready to go bad. We had some oranges that were getting a little crinkly on the skin. We had an apple that we got at one of the smoothie places, and we had ordered a sandwich there. They gave us an apple, so I think it had been in the fridge, so probably a good 2 or 3 weeks. So time to use that. Again, it doesn't have to be complicated, but always find a way to work greens into your diet on a daily basis. So important. And when you think this way, that's how you get a balanced diet. Again, you don't have to overthink this. You don't have to have an app, although there are plenty of them, like Dr. Greger's nutritionfacts.org, his daily dozen, very helpful list. But sometimes we can't get all the dozen on a day. I mean, it's just sometimes life takes over. So don't stress if that happens. But just try to eat some fresh foods on a daily basis. And again, just walking into a store, grabbing the things that are right out there that are not in a package, like the greens, like the fruits, it can be so easy. And when I do racing, there's often bananas and apples and oranges at the end of the race. And quite frankly, that's enough. If they have bagels and peanut butter, even better. But it doesn't have to be this stressful thing where you have to do all this menu planning and it's got to be so complicated. Just make it easy on yourself, because then, you know, you'll be less stressed and you're going to be feeling so much better eating all this healthy food that is so good for you. And when you tackle these chores on a short-term basis, on a daily basis, all of a sudden you find yourself into it for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, which is about the time it takes for your taste buds to really start changing. And then when you notice that you're feeling so much better, it's like, okay, I guess I could quit now and go back to the way I was eating before. But why would you do that? It just feels so much better to feel like nothing is hurting. I mean, I ran the qualifier for the Florida State Senior Games yesterday, and I'm telling you, a lot of people think, oh, marathoners, you know, what a long distance, they're going to be sore. I woke up this morning, delayed onset muscle soreness. My quads were hurting more than any of the 2 marathons and 13 half marathons I've ever done, because when you're sprinting, you're going all out. And I was the only one who ran all 6 track events. And here are my gold medals to prove it. Only 5, because this year they were only counting 5 races. I don't know why, but they let me run all 6 races, and I got first in every race, everything from the 50 meters to the 1,500 meters. And this is the thing. Even though I'm hurting this morning like a little puppy, I know that by tomorrow it's going to let off, and the next day I'll probably be back ready to go running. I mean, this morning at the gym, I was still on the bicycle and I was doing the treadmill. But again, just you got to keep moving, because if you go sit in a chair after that kind of effort, then your muscles are really going to cramp up, and you don't want that to happen. Let's talk about physical activity and veganism. Let's drill down on that one, because to me, I am fond of saying that a vegan diet and running, or whatever aerobic activity you choose, they're magical. As I've hinted, recovery is incredible. Your energy level is incredible. My little secret that is not so secret anymore at races, because I tell everybody in the world, is I drink beet juice 30 minutes to 60 minutes before I race. And what that does, like a lot of vegetables, but especially beets, it gives off nitric oxide so that your blood cells have more oxygen in them. And guess what? It's easier to breathe because your lungs are getting more oxygen. And I totally feel that when I do this. It's so incredible to be just like I was yesterday, running at these breakneck speeds, and I'm almost lapping other people in my age group, and they're all looking at me like, what, you're going to do another race? Like I'm crazy. No, I'm vegan. I have all this energy. I have all this blood flow. I am ready to do it. At the age of 71, I have no reduction of energy. I feel even better than I did when I was 30 or 40. Here's the thing. Being active it just kind of feeds on itself. You just want to get up in the morning. My boyfriend, who's 15 years younger than me, he likes to stay in bed for a good, 15 to 30 minutes before we get out of bed. And I'm just like, I gotta get up. I gotta get moving. And I will move in bed. I will stretch my muscles. I don't know if there's anything to this, but my mother always used to say when I would wake up, that to all of us kids, stretch and fetch it. And that's kind of like what an animal does when they wake up from a long sleep, is just stretch those muscles because they've been dormant for a while. And if you don't do that, you might feel a little stiff and sore. And I often hear from people my age, like, don't you feel kind of stiff in the morning when you get out of bed? No, as long as I get out of bed or start moving pretty quickly. Let's talk about mental health and emotional well-being on a vegan diet. Now, there are studies that show that vegans have less stress because we are causing less pain and suffering to the world and to animals, but also because this lifestyle allows us just to be relaxed and energetic at the same time or at different times. And we just generally are in a better emotional state because we know, at least from our own perspective, personally, we are not causing pain and suffering in the world. And, there's always these the stalkers and the trolls who jump on social media and say, well, aren't you killing a bug if you eat a plant that has a bug on it? It's just like, please get over yourself. In the big picture, vegans take up a lot less space on this planet in terms of what they eat, in terms of animal agriculture, the amount of huge amount, lots of documentaries on this now, huge amount of land that it takes to produce the food for one cow is way, way, way more than it is to produce food to feed like 100 vegans. So just do the research on that, and depending what reputable source you want to believe, it is out there. It just makes so much sense. We are cutting out the middleman, the cow, the pig, the chicken. We're going right to the plant. So just don't stress about a bug that might die if you happen to eat some lettuce that had a bug on it. So you might wonder, what are some of my personal practices or routines that help my mental and emotional balance? And of course, I always love to hear from you what yours are. But for me personally, I do practice yoga. Now, I may not actually go to a yoga class, but I have a yoga mat that has all the positions on it. So while my honey is watching TV at night and I don't want to be a couch potato, I'll get on the floor and try and not be interrupted by any of the house animals. And, or if I am, just take a break and then get back to it. But I'm always stretching at night. So it's important, especially after I put out a lot of energy toward racing, that if I can't stretch right after the race, which is ideal, that I do stretch at night before I go to bed. Definitely want to stretch sometime during the day that you've had that big burst of exercise. But even if I don't go to a class, I will just make sure that my stretches that I'm doing after my aerobic workout are yoga-esque. And I did that, for example, this morning at the gym. I went through all the classic runner stretches, like holding onto your quad or your ankle so that you get a good quad stretch. Other exercises that I do post-running or post-race would be like the open butterfly position, or just sometimes, putting your hands behind your neck and pushing your head back into your hands, because we sit at a computer hunched over way too much of the time. And other stretches, just sitting cross-legged on the floor, sitting on the floor even, can be just a great thing to do at least once a day, because chairs really are kind of a late human invention, not designed kind of like concrete for the human body. So just kind of getting grounded and back to nature in some form or fashion, always a good idea on a daily basis. Other yoga-esque types of exercises would be downward dogs, because that really stretches your whole body. And then the child's pose, which really stretches your whole body, even your quadriceps. So very important just to get total body stretching if you can, at least once a day. In closing, I just really want to recap the idea, the importance of diet, exercise, and mental well-being in living a longer, healthier life. My books really offer deeper insights into how to do this. They are my children. I often refer to them as that. They're not really my children, because I actually have real children. But, this one, even though it's a little book, I've had a number of people say this is their exercise Bible. And one of the reasons is because it goes into all these different areas of working out that just don't apply to running. And sometimes you might find you're just feeling so good, you might break into a run and then you start adding a little bit more to it. And that's really my philosophy. Don't get a case of the terrible twos. I know it feels good to be vegan and to be fit, but just don't do too much too soon. And I think you'll enjoy a long, healthy life that is full of fun, and you don't have to just go crazy doing too much too soon and burning out like a high school track kid. I mean, they all don't get injured, but I saw plenty of them, and it's just important to moderate and do a little bit at a time. Run, walk, run, sprint, and just gradually do it so that you are listening to your body. That's the really big lesson I want to stress too is listen to your body. I've had physical therapists tell me that I am more in tune with my body than most of their patients. And I'm going like, wait, what? That's like my guide. How do you not listen? How do you not know that your glute or your hamstring is about ready to go as you were pushing the envelope? I felt that yesterday when I was racing. And I've seen guys crash at the finish line because they weren't listening, literally fall down, injured. Because they weren't backing off. And that's the thing. You have to be in touch with your body and look for the signals that that wonderful brain of yours is giving you. I really would encourage you to explore more about veganism and the benefits of longevity. I would love to hear your comments down below about your own experiences or questions about adopting a vegan lifestyle. You know, when I was doing this, there was no cell phones, no computers. It was just kind of like, okay, I'm going to read this book, on to the next, and trying to process all that. And I think that's one of the reasons I've got so much stuff up here. And once you have read enough, then all of a sudden you're ready to write your own books. And that's really how that happened. I got turned down, by the way, for lots of years before the first one actually went to print. So I hope that you have liked what you've heard here. If you have, please don't forget to subscribe down below. And I would love to hear your thoughts about some of the stuff I've been talking about. And in the meantime, I'm going to be cranking out more videos, and I hope you'll join me about veganism, health, and wellness, because that's my passion. I love sharing it with others because I think the world would be a whole lot nicer place if more of us were vegan and loving the world in a different place. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Gotta run.